While we're talking about the role that social media plays in modern discourse, I want to touch on a story about a feud brewing between Twitter and Australia's new eSafety Commissioner. The Sydney Morning Herald's Jordan Baker revealed yesterday Australian takes on Elon Musk over spike in online hate on Twitter. Australian authorities have used their world-first legal powers to demand that Twitter explain what it is doing to prevent online hate after a major spike in complaints since the platform was acquired by billionaire Elon Musk. Now, Baker also reports that Twitter can be hit with fines of almost $700,000 each day for failing to comply. Now, we all know that there are massive issues with crazy commentary on Twitter. We just touched on some of this commentary just then on the show. But where I get nervous is when government bodies use ill-defined terms such as hate speech or misinformation to censor legitimate discourse. And the journalist who wrote that story actually spread some misinformation herself. Not only did she conflate neo-Nazis with journalist Andy Ngo, who was a gay son of refugees, she falsely claimed that he had been banned on Twitter until Musk's takeover meant the account was reinstated. Well, Andy Ngo responded to that article saying, "I was never reinstated by Twitter following Musk's takeover because my account had never been removed before." This is despite all the efforts by Antifa and far-left extremists to manipulate the platform with fake reports on my posts. You did not reach out for comment and have written misinformation. You're a chief reporter and you made such juvenile mistakes. Well, we agree. It appears to be an unforgivable mistake. And this is the problem with declaring things misinformation or hate speech. Who is deciding what is truth? Often these reporters are too foolish or ill-informed to know. And why would we let a government body make that determination? Now, I personally have had enough of overreaching authoritarianism, banning debates and censoring speech. It hasn't worked anywhere, and Australia has a very poor track record already. So, Joe, obviously, we're not going to be condoning people that are spreading abuse all over Twitter, but it's how you define that abuse which is important to me. And currently, I've seen that ill-defined, this supposed increase. Right, It's hard to quantify. What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'd say Jordan Baker is an excellent reporter. Reporters make mistakes all the time. That doesn't mean they're deliberately spreading misinformation or whatever. So I think you have to draw that distinction as well. There's a difference between an error made in good faith and fake news.
Well, if she'd gone to him for comment, and that's when the whole point of the story is about stopping the spread of misinformation. The whole point is mistakes do happen.
Mistakes do happen. Andy Ngo, obviously, I love his work exposing Antifa, and it's fantastic to see. The issue here, I think, is not just necessarily the fake news and the censorship and the restrictions, although, like you, I'm very much a free speech absolutist, as long as it doesn't incite violence, but the hypocrisy. So this idea that the hard left, the censorious left, says, look, we encourage debate, we believe in free speech, but we just don't condone hate speech. And then hate speech suddenly becomes everything your opponent says and everything you disagree with. And I think there's a real, and again, we saw with that earlier example with the editor from Crikey making, associate editor of Crikey making jokes about a dying person's last hours on the planet, sexual lewd jokes too. I mean, it's clearly that if that is not going to be condemned and that is going to be allowed to ride roughshod on social media, then how can you then turn around and say, well, you shouldn't be able to use this particular descriptor for someone or this particular word or whatever? There's also a failure, I think. The left seems to think that it's hate speech if you're speaking abstractly about an argument or saying that this particular movement or this particular idea is stupid or ridiculous, but that it's okay for a whole mob of people to attack an individual online, and that's okay. So it's okay for you to abuse an individual online, and again, you can see there's a sort of revolutionary Bolshevik zeal there at times, but to actually have debate about ideas or movements or ideologies can comprise hate speech. So again, it's that innate hypocrisy and contradiction at the heart of the argument that is really the problem.
And what is abuse and what is critical reporting, which people are upset about? And Caroline, do you have any strong opinions about this? Are you like me that you get worried when we have these misinformation leaders who are talking about issuing fines if this ill-defined phrase hate speech is not taken care of?
Look, I think Joe has covered it really well. I mean, for me, I'm obviously concerned anytime a bureaucrat wants to weigh in on something like this, because usually what happens is they make a situation worse rather than better. And I think where you don't have things that are really clear and really well defined or can be appealed and those sorts of things, you do end up with a real inconsistency in how people are treated. And for the example that we saw in relation to the submarines, you know, do I think it's distasteful? Yes. Do I think he should not be able to say it? No, no, no. He should say it so the rest of us can see what an imbecile he is.
Oh, perfect. Exactly. I want to know what people are thinking more often than not just deleting it and omitting it and pretending it never happened.